It was a calm morning in the crowded lanes of Maqsoodabad, a suburban colony near Kanpur. The sun was rising lazily, painting the rooftops gold, and people were beginning their daily routines. But that peace was shattered by a scream, a sound that would haunt the neighborhood forever. On the rooftop of a small two-story house, a woman lay motionless, face down on a cot, surrounded by a dark pool of blood. Her name was Shashi Gautam. She was just 30 years old. And within minutes, her house became the center of a mystery that no one could explain. It was her neighbor, Bablu Sharma, who first noticed something strange. Every morning, Shashi would water her plants or feed the pigeons. But that morning, she hadn't moved at all. When Bablu called her name, there was only silence. He shouted again, louder this time. Still no response. Then his eyes caught something that froze his soul. A blood stain, thick and dark, spreading beneath the cot. Bablu stumbled backward, panic tightening his chest. "Shashi! Shashi!" he yelled again, but the lifeless body didn't move. Within minutes, neighbors crowded onto their terraces, whispering, gasping, and staring at the horrifying scene. Someone finally called the police. Within half an hour, Station Officer Shailendra Singh and his team from Bithur Police Station arrived. The house had two entrances, one locked from inside, the other bolted from outside. The officers broke the outer lock and stepped in cautiously. Inside, everything was eerily quiet. The fan was still spinning slowly, and a half-empty glass of water sat beside the bed. The police climbed to the terrace, and what they saw made even the most hardened officers pause. Shashi Gautam's lifeless body lay face down. There was a gunshot wound on her chest. The bullet had gone straight through. Near the cot was an empty 315-bore cartridge case glinting in the sunlight. The scene was messy, tragic, and confusing. The blood had pooled across the floor, seeping into the corners of the terrace. The officers took photographs, collected samples, and dusted for fingerprints. Meanwhile, the crowd below had grown to hundreds. Faces full of shock, curiosity, and fear stared upward. The quiet lane of Maqsoodabad had turned into a crime scene. When Shashi's parents, Ramdas and Shivdevi, arrived with her brother Anil, their world fell apart. Shivdevi collapsed on the spot, wailing in disbelief. Ramdas stood silent, his eyes fixed on his daughter's body as if his soul had frozen inside him. But the question that echoed among everyone was, who could do something so brutal to Shashi? She wasn't known to have enemies. She lived alone, quietly, and kept to herself most of the time. Her husband, Santosh, lived separately with one of their children. Her other two kids were staying with their grandparents. To the world, Shashi's life seemed lonely, but ordinary. Yet now, the bullet in her chest told a darker story, one filled with secrets no one had seen coming. When ASP Abhishek Kumar Agarwal took over the case, the investigation moved quickly. Shashi's father was questioned first. His eyes were red with grief when he said, "Sir, my daughter had problems with her husband, Santosh. They fought for years. She left him and started living alone." The police listened carefully. If there was a marital dispute, the husband was always the first suspect. But Ramdas hesitated when asked if he suspected anyone specific. "I don't know, sir, but she had been acting strange for months," he finally said, his voice trembling. The investigators then turned to the man who first discovered the body, Bablu Sharma. Bablu told the police something that changed the direction of the case. The night before the murder, he said. Around 7 p.m. I saw Shashi talking on her phone on the terrace. She sounded upset. I overheard her saying, "You have to come, Mahesh. Don't back out now." The man on the call refused to come. She tried calling him again later that night, but he didn't answer. The name Mahesh Chand Sharma immediately caught the attention of the officers. Mahesh Chand Sharma, a respected school headmaster from Shashi's native village, Singhpur. Middle-aged, educated and widowed, he was known for his discipline and calm personality. But locals also whispered that Mahesh had grown unusually close to Shashi over the past few years. The two were often seen together, and people speculated that their relationship was more than friendship. When the police pulled Shashi's phone records, their suspicions deepened. Dozens of calls and messages between Mahesh and Shashi appeared in the last few weeks alone. The two spoke daily, sometimes late into the night. It was now clear to the investigators that this wasn't a random murder. There was a hidden relationship, one that had soured over time. The police began to suspect that love, betrayal, and revenge were tangled together in this case. Under pressure, ASP Abhishek ordered the immediate detention of Mahesh Chand Sharma and his son Amit Sharma. At midnight, the police raided their home and brought both in for questioning. At first, they denied everything. Mahesh claimed he hadn't seen Shashi in days, while Amit insisted they had nothing to do with her. But after hours of cross-questioning, their stories began to crumble. Finally, under intense pressure, Mahesh broke down. With shaking hands, he confessed the unthinkable. "Yes, I knew her. I loved her once," he said softly. "But she ruined my life." He admitted that for years he had been in a secret relationship with Shashi. He had helped her financially, even built her the house in Maqsoodabad where she now lived. But over time, their love had turned into hatred. Shashi had begun blackmailing him, demanding money and threatening to expose their affair to the public and his colleagues. "I couldn't take it anymore," Mahesh whispered, tears mixing with shame. "I wanted peace, but she wouldn't stop." The officers listened in silence. What Mahesh said next made everyone in the room go cold. "I didn't kill her myself," he said, "but I made it happen." The confession stunned everyone. The calm, respected school headmaster had turned into the mastermind of a cold-blooded murder. And the next revelation, that his own son had helped him plan it, would shake Kanpur to its core. As the dawn broke over the police station, ASP Abhishek stared at Mahesh and his son sitting side by side, a father and son duo who had conspired to end a woman's life. But why did Amit agree to help? What exactly did they plan? And who pulled the trigger that ended Shashi's story? Those questions would take the investigation into a world of crime, deceit, and a shocking name from Kanpur's underworld. A woman once feared as a dacoit queen. And that's where the story turns dark, because the next person involved would change everything. Morning sunlight crept through the dusty windows of the police station as Mahesh Chand Sharma sat silently, his head bowed. The calm and respectable headmaster everyone admired was gone, replaced by a broken man carrying a dark secret. Across the room, his son Amit sat stiff, his face pale, his eyes heavy with guilt. They had both confessed to being involved in Shashi's murder. But the mystery was only beginning. The police still needed to know how they did it, and who had pulled the trigger. When interrogators pushed further, Mahesh's voice trembled as he began to speak again. Shashi. She changed over time. She used to be gentle, loving, but then she became greedy. Every month she asked for more money, 20,000, 30,000, sometimes even 50. If I refused, she'd threaten to ruin my life. She said she'd tell everyone about us, tell the school, tell the village. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. My respect, my job, my family, now everything was at stake. He looked up at the officer, tears filling his tired eyes. I didn't want to kill her, sir. But I wanted her to stop as Mahesh spoke. His son Amit sat silently, his hands trembling. The officers turned toward him next. You knew everything? ASP Abhishek asked sharply. Amit nodded slowly. I saw my father suffering every day. I begged her to leave him alone, but she laughed at me, he said bitterly. She used to call and insult him in front of others, demand money, threaten him. My father was ready to end his life because of her. His voice cracked. So yes, I told him. We needed to finish it. The confession hit the officers like a punch. A son helping his father plan a woman's death, not out of greed but rage and humiliation. Still, there was one unanswered question. Who had executed the plan? Amit hesitated before whispering a name that sent chills through the room. Seema Yadav. ASP Abhishek looked up sharply. Who is Seema Yadav? Amit replied in a low, shaky tone. She was once known as Dacoit Queen Seema, a woman with a dark past. My friend called her Dasu Sundari. She still has men working for her. The name hit like lightning. Seema Yadav, a former bandit from Kanpur Dehat, once feared in the villages, now living quietly but still surrounded by criminals and old connections. The officers exchanged tense glances. They knew what that name meant. This was no ordinary murder. It was a professional hit. Amit continued, his voice trembling as he described the plan. I told Seema everything. She said she could help. She demanded 1 lakh rupees. I didn't have that much, so I promised to pay in parts. She said she had men who could handle the job quietly. That night she called and said it would be done. The words hung in the air like smoke. Cold, deadly and final. From that moment, the case transformed from a domestic tragedy into a murder conspiracy involving a notorious ex-dacoit. The police wasted no time. Surveillance teams were dispatched and phone records of Mahesh, Amit, and Seema Yadav were pulled. Everything lined up. Multiple calls exchanged just before the night of July 9th. It was undeniable proof that the killing was premeditated. ASP Abhishek ordered a special operation to track Seema and her associates. But before the police could reach her, they needed to find the gunman. According to Amit's statement, Seema had sent 3 men to carry out the murder: Anuj Yadav, Satyam Sharma, and Amar Yadav. All 3 had criminal backgrounds known for small-time robberies and extortion. Using tower locations from their phones, the police traced them to a nearby village called Pradhanpur. It was there that the officers launched their first raid. The night of the raid was tense. The officers surrounded the village quietly, moving through narrow lanes with flashlights off. Around midnight, they found Anuj and Satyam hiding in an old house on the edge of the fields. They tried to escape but were quickly overpowered. When the police searched the house, they found blood-stained clothes, a 315-bore pistol, and a motorcycle matching the description given by Amit. It was the breakthrough they needed. Under interrogation, Anuj cracked first. Yes, he admitted, his voice trembling. We went to Shashi's house that night. Seema Madam told us to do it. What he described next painted a chilling picture of that night. It was around 1:30 a.m., Anuj began. The three of us parked the bike a street away. The gate was locked, so we climbed up using a rope. Shashi was sleeping on a cot on her terrace. I could hear her breathing. Amar held the rope steady while Satyam and I moved closer. When we reached the cot, she suddenly turned half awake. Satyam grabbed her arms. Amar covered her mouth. I pulled out the gun and... His voice trailed off. One shot, right in the chest. She didn't even scream. The room went silent. Even the officers, who had seen dozens of cases, were shaken. And the mobile? Asked an investigator. Amar took it, Anuj whispered. Seema said she wanted it as proof to make sure the work was done. Where did you go afterward? Back to Kanpur. Seema gave us 14,000 rupees the next morning and said she'd pay the rest later. Every detail matched perfectly with what the police had already found at the crime scene. The empty cartridge, the blood pattern, the missing phone. Everything. ASP Abhishek knew they were close to ending this case, but one piece still remained. Capturing Seema Yadav herself. And that wouldn't be easy. She was smart, elusive, and dangerous. The officers launched a secret surveillance operation, tracing her movements through her relatives. Days of tracking led them to a rented house on the outskirts of Kanpur. As dawn approached, the team surrounded the location. When the door finally burst open, Seema Yadav stood there, calm, dressed in a simple sari, as if she'd been waiting for them. I knew you'd come, she said coldly. The officers handcuffed her as she smirked, whispering, Everyone wants to blame the woman. But you'll never know the full story. Her words hung heavy in the air. What did she mean by that? Was there more to this crime than what Mahesh and Amit had confessed? Had someone else manipulated them all? The officers didn't have answers yet. But the truth was about to unfold in the most unexpected way. Because when Seema Yadav finally spoke, her version of the story would change everything the police thought they knew about Shashi's murder and reveal a shocking twist that no one could have imagined. The room was silent as Seema Yadav sat across from the investigators. The once feared dacoit queen of Kanpur Dehat now looked calm, even proud. Her eyes were sharp, her tone cold. You think I killed her for money? She said with a faint smirk. You're wrong. I didn't even know who she was until Amit came to me crying about his father. All I did was arrange what they begged me to arrange. Her words sent chills down everyone's spine. ASP Abhishek leaned forward, his voice steady. Then tell us exactly what happened. Seema sighed. Amit came to me in June. He said his father was losing his mind because of a woman. She was blackmailing him, threatening to destroy his life. I told him to forget it, but he kept coming back. He said his father might commit suicide if I didn't help. She paused, glancing toward the camera, recording her statement. So yes, I agreed to help. I didn't pull the trigger, Tom, but I knew it would happen. You call me a criminal officer, but I only gave them what they wanted. Silence. Her voice was filled with twisted logic. It was clear she felt no remorse. To her, it wasn't murder. It was a transaction. She even claimed she warned Mahesh that blood never washes away guilt. But in the end, greed and fear had overpowered reason. They were ready to destroy themselves, she said softly, almost mockingly. I just gave them the path. After hours of questioning, Seema finally signed her confession. It matched the evidence perfectly. The phone records, the weapon, the money trail, and the timeline. With her arrest, the circle of the conspiracy was complete. Every player, from the mastermind to the hitman, was now behind bars. But for the police, this case wasn't just about catching the killers. It was about understanding why it happened. What had turned an educated man into a murderer, a son into a conspirator, and a woman into a victim of her own choices? Over the following days, the investigation team pieced together Shashi Gautam's hidden life. She had once been known in her village as a charming, beautiful woman with a fiery spirit. Her marriage to Santosh had started like a dream but turned into a nightmare. Endless fights, financial struggles, and ego clashes pushed her away. When she met Mahesh, he offered what she had lost: attention, security, and care. But what began as comfort soon became control, and what began as love eventually rotted into manipulation. Shashi had learned how to use her charm as power. She started demanding more: money, land, and favors. When Mahesh hesitated, she threatened him, not realizing she was pushing him toward the edge. Mahesh, respected in his community and fearful of public shame, tried to hide the affair for years. But Shashi's pressure kept growing. Her calls became louder, her words crueler. In her attempt to dominate him, she lost sight of how dangerous desperation can become. The autopsy report confirmed the brutality of that final night. The bullet had pierced her heart instantly. The shooter had aimed from less than 2 feet away. There were no signs of struggle, meaning she was either asleep or barely awake when it happened. The scene spoke of betrayal, not rage. The killers hadn't come to argue. They came to end it quickly and cleanly. In the days that followed, the arrests made national headlines. People were shocked to learn that the respectable headmaster of a village school had hired assassins through a former bandit queen to kill his lover. The courtroom was packed when Mahesh, Amit, Seema, and the shooters were produced before the judge. Reporters whispered as the father and son were led in, handcuffed, their faces covered with white cloth. During the hearing, Mahesh barely spoke. He kept his eyes down, his voice faint. "I didn't want to kill her," he told the court. "I wanted my peace back. I lost my mind." Amit, meanwhile, broke down completely. "I only wanted to save my father," he cried. "I didn't realize I was destroying my soul." The judge listened carefully. The evidence was overwhelming. The confession, the call logs, the recovered pistol, the blood-stained shirt, the money trail. After months of hearings, all 6 accused, Mahesh Chand Sharma, Amit Sharma, Seema Yadav, Anuj Yadav, Amar Yadav, and Satyam Sharma, were convicted. The court described it as a story of moral decay, where love turned to greed, greed turned to fear, and fear ended in death. But for Shashi's parents, justice felt hollow. Ramdas still visited her small house in Maksudabad once a month, lighting a lamp on the terrace where she took her last breath. Her mother, Shivdevi, never recovered fully. If only she had come home, she often whispered to the neighbors. If only someone had stopped her that night. The people of Kanpur still talk about the case, about how quickly trust can turn into danger, and how secrets can destroy even the most respectable lives. The house in Maksudabad remains locked, its walls stained with whispers of the past. Locals say they still feel uneasy passing by it after sunset. Some claim to hear a faint echo, a woman's voice calling someone's name softly into the night. And as the story of Shashi Gautam fades into memory, one haunting question still lingers. Was she the victim of her own choices, or just another soul destroyed by the greed and guilt of others? What do you think?